It's among a parent's worst nightmares, having your children taken away. A growing number of doctors are trained to spot child abuse, but despite their best intentions, an NBC News investigation with the Houston Chronicle has found they can be wrong, with devastating consequences. Here's Katie Beck.
Dylan and Melissa Bright stay playful and positive for their kids. But underneath, they're healing from an experience so painful, they wonder if they'll ever feel safe again.
How would you characterize it?
The most terrifying experience that you can imagine.
It started last September when 5-month-old Mason fell off a chair in the driveway.
The next thing I know, I hear him screaming.
Rushing him to the hospital for help, where doctors found a fracture on Mason's skull and note an unusual second hairline fracture with severe bleeding. Doctors at Texas Children's Hospital, specially trained to detect child abuse, raise a red flag.
When he said highly probable for abuse, what were you thinking? What was your reaction at the time?
I was beside myself because I knew at that moment nobody was listening.
The Brights get a second opinion. A radiologist determines the shortfall could have caused both breaks, and a hematologist from Texas Children's Hospital diagnoses Mason with a blood clotting disorder, possibly explaining the excess bleeding. All of this given to Child Protective Services.
Their exact response to us was, we already have all of the information we need.
So they didn't even take it into consideration that it was possible?
That was their exact response.
During the CPS investigation, the Bright children were staying with their grandparents until Mason had surgery and the Brights wanted to bring him home, telling the caseworker,
"We are more than willing to work with you, however that may be, but I've got to choose my son first."
But after 3 weeks without any contact from CPS, the caseworker shows up one night to take Mason and Charlotte, heard on this recording.
Calm down.
No, it's my children. I can't calm down.
They were not notified there had been an emergency custody hearing, so no chance to present the second opinion to a judge. Charlotte tries to comfort her mom.
Mommy!
Forced to send the kids to foster care.
No, I can't. I can't.
When their aunt was allowed to get them 3 days later, Charlotte had a cut beneath her eye. Mason's crying hoarse.
How egregious was not telling the family about that emergency hearing, not giving a family a chance to defend themselves?
Huge. That the case would have been dismissed the next day.
When Judge Mike Schneider finally heard the case, he was so outraged he ordered the state to pay the families $127,000 in legal bills.
By the time we got to court, the kids had been injured, but not by their parents, by the state.
He also blames a system that, with the best of intentions, can be too quick to follow the judgment of a child abuse pediatrician.
CPS seems to be often willing to, once they hear something that meets a certain threshold in their mind, to say, that's it.
A statement from Texas Children's Hospital says the 2 fractures warranted an investigation, but added a referral to CPS is not absolute confirmation of abuse, nor a determination of guilt or innocence.
A spokesperson for CPS issued a statement saying that after the Bright case, they didn't feel any policy change was needed. They simply needed to follow the rules that were already on the books. That spokesperson also confirmed that the caseworker and supervisor that handled the Bright case are still on the job here.
The CPS workers completed court-ordered training, but the Brights want more change.
As horrific as our case was, we're actually really lucky and very fortunate to have gotten them home. A lot of families don't.
Mason has made a full recovery, but the Brights live in fear of every innocent scrape or bump on the playground.
We're still not whole, and it's hard to say that it's over.
Katie, it's a troubling story. So often we hear the opposite, where CPS is under fire for not acting quickly enough.
Exactly, Lester. And our investigation determined that sometimes that pendulum can swing too far the other way, resulting in parents being falsely accused. So if people want to hear more about this heartbreaking story and others like it, we do have more information on NBCnews.com.
All right, Katie, thank you.